So that is one thing. Anmol Bhai has joined now. Namaste, Anmol Bhai. We can see you.
Okay. Am I audible also?
Yes.
Okay. 1 minute. Where is the link?
इंट्यूटिव कॉन्शियसनेस वाला 84 पैरा भेजू 1 मिनट
1 minute. Hmm. लिंक है आपके पास अवेलेबल अभी?
आज चैट में भेजा, मैंने डाला हुआ है अभी। व्हाट्सएप पे नहीं, ये वाले चैट पे लोकल।
गॉट इट।
ये व्हाट्सएप पे भी डाल देता हूँ।
नहीं नहीं, कोई बात नहीं। ये चार्ट दिख क्यों नहीं रहा है? हाँ। हम्म। बट अभी कल्पना बहन नहीं आई है। और क्या टाइम हो गया? 8-9 हो गया।
हम्म।
या वी शुड स्टार्ट। हाँ, आप ये पढ़ लो दोनों। द साइकिक बीइंग एंड द इंट्यूटिव कॉन्शियसनेस, और ये द साइकिक बीइंग एंड द एक्सटर्नल बीइंग।
डज एनीबडी एल्स वांट टू रीड और
I'll read Dhaval Bhai.
हाँ, प्लीज प्लीज।
प्लीज योगेश भाई, गो अहेड।
The psychic being and the intuitive consciousness. No, the intuitive self is quite different from the psychic, or rather, the intuitive consciousness that is somewhere above the mind. The psychic stands behind the being, a simple and sincere devotion to the divine, single hearted, an immediate sense of what is right, and helps towards the truth and the divine. An instinctive withdrawal from all that is the opposite are its most visible characteristics. The psychic being and the external being. What you what you experience is the first condition of the yogic consciousness and self knowledge. The ordinary mind knows itself only as an ego, with all the movements of the nature in a jumble, and identifying itself with these movements, thinks, I am doing this, feeling that, thinking, in joy or in sorrow, etc. The first beginning of real self knowledge is when you feel yourself separate from the nature in you and its movements, and then you see that there are many parts of your being, many personalities, each acting on its own behalf and in its own way. The two different beings you feel are: one, the psychic being, which draws you towards the mother; the other, the external being, mostly vital, which draws you outwards and downwards towards the play of the lower nature. There is also in you, behind the mind, the being who observes, the witness Purusha, who can stand detached from the play of the nature, observing it and able to choose. It has to put itself always on the side of the psychic being and assent to and support its movements, and to reject the downward and outward movement of the lower nature, which has to be subjected to the psychic and changed by its influence.
1 second. uh ठीक है, first we'll cover this. In the last session, we had covered this section of the regarding the form of the psychic being. We had even shown one example from the agenda. The psychic being and the intuitive consciousness. No, the intuitive self is quite different from the psychic, or rather, the intuitive consciousness that is somewhere above the mind. Okay. The psychic stands behind the being, a simple and sincere devotion to the divine, single-hearted, an immediate sense of what is right, and helps towards the truth and the divine. An instinctive withdrawal from all that is opposite are its most visible characteristics. Yeah, so the intuitive self is quite different from the psychic, or rather, the intuitive consciousness is quite different from the psychic. That is somewhere above the mind. I think he's referring to the plane of consciousness which he calls intuitive mind. So, those who are already knowing of Sri Aurobindo's system, above the mind, he has named these 4 planes of consciousness, जो spiritual planes हैं, namely higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, and overmind. These are also mind in the sense that they are also subject to the law of division. They are not having the perfect unity. Above the overmind is what he calls the supermind, which is the truth consciousness. The word he has taken from the Veda, Ritachit, translated that into English, and that is having complete unity, right? So this, what he's talking about here, the intuitive consciousness, I think, I mean, because he says clearly that is somewhere above the mind. Here he is not specifying, here he is just saying somewhere. That's okay. I mean, that's according to the person that the letter was written also, you know, one cannot be guessing कि exactly why ये क्यों लिखा है, cannot be, but it is that plane only, intuitive mind. So it is two play, so it's first is higher mind. Acha, to experience any of these, one has to have silence in the mind. Yeah, these are spiritual planes of consciousness. These are the spiritual domains. So, in order to experience them, one has to have mental silence. So, above the higher mind is the illumined mind, then is the intuitive. A description of these is there in the letters on yoga, in planes and parts of the being. It is also there in the Life Divine, last chapter of the part 1. Right. Second, so he's making it clear. Acha, now, psychic say intuition aati hai. So the intuitive plane, it sends its things and they come to the psychic, or actually psychic is in direct connection with the supreme. So it is having a knowledge of things. वही अगले उसमें described है. But yeah, it should not be confused, because as I said many times earlier, psychic being is a term coined by Sri Aurobindo. And it is, the word psychic is having several connotations in the English language, even now. So, just to clarify what it means, and how it is different. Very important. This is very important because according to Sri Aurobindo, the first thing that has to be achieved in yoga is the realization of the psychic being, and then the transformation of the nature under the influence of the psychic, right? So the psychic stands behind the being that we know. It's behind the manifestation and supports it. What are its characteristics? A simple and sincere devotion to the divine, without any demand, without any pretense, simple, straightforward, sincere. A simple and sincere devotion to the divine, single-hearted. The other parts of the being, vital, physical, mind, etc., they can have their own agenda, their own what they want, etc. Psychic, single-hearted mane only what the divine wants. No, nothing but you, only you. That is the psychic, right? Uh, Archana ji has joined, so I'll just read it from the beginning of the sentence. The psychic stands behind the being, a simple and sincere devotion to the divine. One can think a simplicity matlab kya, but it's a very powerful quality to have that simplicity. Sincerity का तो मैं क्या ही बोलूं, मतलब mother has said that if you find a truly sincere person, then you should bow down before him. It is so rare as a quality. Sincerity means transparency, she has said. Nothing of what is there in us should be hidden from the divine vision. Anyway, the divine knows everything, but being transparent before the divine like this, that all my movements are open to you, and yeah, basically single-hearted, an immediate sense of what is right and helps towards the truth and the divine. So if we do something, think something, feel something, etc., which is not right, immediately there will be a sort of, like this flicker. Hey, nahin, this is wrong. An immediate sense of what is right. ये right नहीं है, या फिर ये right है. You hear something, हाँ ये सही है. What is the thing that allows us to recognize Sri Aurobindo? It is the psychic. An immediate sense of what is right. हाँ ये truth है. Somewhere you just that psychic, उससे जो intuition आती है, उससे जो knowledge आती है, yes, this is right. Right. So we'll again read this slowly. It's very, very important. Practical about an immediate sense of what is right and what helps towards the truth and the divine. ये चीज मुझे आगे लेके जाएगी डिवाइन की तरफ, ट्रुथ की तरफ. दिस इज व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हिंडर मी. बेसिकली व्हाट इज राइट एंड व्हाट इज रॉन्ग, राइट? An instinctive withdrawal from all that is the opposite are its most visible characteristics.
The keyword here, Anmol bhai, is I think instinctive withdrawal. Matlab it's nature. Matlab it doesn't think. It's an instinctive withdrawal.
It
Like
doesn't need
animals instinctively do things outwardly, वैसे is the
at
behavior
the
of
at the animal level, the divine knowledge basically manifests as instinct. That is why body जो होता है, body is basically an animal body, right? तो body के अंदर वो जो है उसको instinct बोलते हैं. The word instinct is applicable to the body.
body. हाँ, correct. हाँ.
Mind के लिए the corresponding word would be intuition, like that.
But here he has purposely chosen to use the word
and
instinctive withdrawal for the
तो
psychic.
उतना we don't need to threadbare it so much, but basically वही
Okay.
कि हाँ, yes, an instinctive withdrawal from all that is. You're right, मतलब वही divine element basically, immediate,
हाँ,
instinctive,
immediate. हाँ,
without any
instinct.
thinking. हाँ,
हाँ,
an
exactly.
instinctive withdrawal from
हाँ.
all that is the opposite are its most visible. All its opposite मतलब कहाँ, जहाँ भी ego का खेल हो रहा है,
Right.
wherever it is the ego which is trying to have its play. So immediately. अब ego तो फिर obviously it's such a huge field and मतलब, So just once more, I'll read this because of its importance, and then the next one. The psychic stands behind the being, a simple and sincere devotion to the divine, single-hearted, an immediate sense of what is right and helps towards the truth and the divine, an instinctive withdrawal from all that is the opposite are its most visible characteristics. We could just copy paste these four, parts of the sentence and just put it somewhere. Okay, what are the signs of the psychic? We can go back to this again and again, right?
Anmol,
Yes.
yeah,
Vivekji?
Anmol, if you see this 4 points that you said, from the time we started reading about the psychic being, it
Yes.
always said that it stands behind, right? So it starts with something that we had heard, that we've studied for quite some time.
Yeah.
But the next part that it defines, it says sincere devotion to the divine, single-hearted. Now, it's actually giving you a feeling, a manifestation that if you really see what is the psychic being,
Hmm.
it is a pure, single hearted, sincere devotion to the divine.
Yeah.
That means that there is a constant awareness. You and me have spoken about this, that if a person who is completely besotted and one with the Lord, जैसे मीराबाई या कबीर, they were 24/7. Their complete link, it was as if a bond with the divinity was now constant, right? So here it's indicating, this is the first time it's come up. I don't recollect this clarity coming up for the psychic being. That,
Exactly. And this is again मैं बोल रहा हूँ इस चीज को. Hence the great utility of reading each and every word in this section, because कहीं ना कहीं exactly वो जो आप बोल रहे हैं कि इस तरह की clarity इन words में इस स्पष्टता के साथ पहले नहीं आई है.
right,
हाँ.
right.
Yes, please go
And
ahead.
and yeah, and it is so beautiful because if to see, to understand, a psychic being isn't something. I mean, even minds are complex, and you talked about, 4 levels of the mind. There itself is complexity. So something that's more suksham, more pure, which is the psychic being, to get something so beautiful, so crisp, a simple and sincere devotion to the divine, single hearted. That means it's non-stop. Uske aage piche, left, right, kuch nahi hai. It's only him,
Only
all the
him.
time. And
इसी को
then if you,
गीता में this is called अनन्यता. Nothing else. अन्य और कुछ नहीं. अनन्यता. अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो माम ये जनाः पर्युपासते तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम्. 9.22. This is one of the most important shlokas of the Gita. इसलिए I'm just taking the opportunity to share it. Yeah, that single-heartedness. अनन्य और कुछ नहीं, only the divine. Yes.
a small request, do paste it after we close our lecture,
Certainly.
this 922 with this translation that you
Certainly.
mentioned,
Certainly.
because it's so
Certainly.
beautiful. And what it leads after that, think about it. If we had Krishan Bhagwan now here with us every second, the moment you put this connect and you are single heartedly connected, the next follows, which is there is an immediate sense of what is right and helps towards the truth and the divine. Because now that you've already connected, it's like your seatbelt is now connected to the divinity. Now that the link is established, then what is the outcome? The outcome obviously is an immediate sense of what is right and helps towards the truth and the divine. And if you are connected to the divine, then you know everything. The oneness becomes something like an experience. The psychic being, therefore, being different from the mind state, because the mind is division, it again leads to an instinctive withdrawal from all that, which is the opposite, are its most visible characteristics.
Yeah.
So I find this to be
Most
so
visible.
beautiful,
इसमें
right?
और भी कुछ होंगे जो उतने विजिबल नहीं है. They are more subtle,
Correct.
but these are its most visible characteristics. So, I mean, I would almost urge all the attendees to just copy paste this in a separate note and keep it and read it every day, because this is like the first step, to see कि मेरे अंदर
You
वो मेरे सिंपल और सिंसियर डिवोशन में कहीं कोई कमी तो नहीं आ रही है. Am I being single hearted or not? All these things. Yeah.
Beautiful. And Anmol, really, I mean, I feel after reading this for last so many months, the fact that this comes up now, it shows the magic of Sri Aurobindo and the
Exactly.
clarity and the absolute love he has for all his devotees, to put
Yeah.
it so beautifully. I
Yeah.
really felt this is beautiful what he's
Yeah,
written
yeah.
here.
This is amazing. Thank you also. I mean, you have expressed yourself very well. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Also, that shloka which I mentioned, so on the group, I had pasted a video of a Vrindavan sadhu So I will post it again. Then you can understand the connection even better. It's a fantastic video. It's an incident from the life of an acharya in Banaras, and where Krishna actually comes and shows the proof that the Gita is my word body and don't play around with it. So it's just 2 minutes. Do watch it. Okay. Who is this real me? Is this Shweta? Who is this Realme RMX 3944? बोल नहीं रहा है. Okay. Okay. Next. The psychic being and the external being. What you experience, obviously, the person has shared his experience, the disciple has shared his experience with Sri Aurobindo. What you experience is the first condition of the yogic consciousness and self-knowledge. The ordinary mind knows itself only as an ego with all the movements of the nature in a jumble, and identifying itself with these movements thinks, I am doing this, feeling that, thinking, in joy or in sorrow, etc. The first beginning of real self-knowledge is when you feel yourself separate from the nature in you and its movements, and then you see that there are many parts of your being, many personalities, each acting on its own behalf and in its own way. Yeah. I'll come back to each sentence again. Examples are coming to mind, one or two. The two different beings you feel are one. Yeah. So now he's Joe's ka experience tha. The psychic being which draws you towards the mother. So like, if we see her photo or Sri Aurobindo, mother and Sri Aurobindo are one. So the psychic being which draws you towards the mother, the psychic being which draws you towards Sri Aurobindo, we can substitute like that. If we feel an attraction towards their photo or their words or mother's music or anything, basically any of their center, any such thing, okay, their name, this is coming from the psychic being. This much should be understood. Okay. The psychic being draws you towards the mother. Okay. The external being, mostly vital, which draws you outward, जो रजोगुण होता है ना, कुछ करना है, which draws you outward and downwards towards the play of the lower nature. There is also in you, behind the mind, the being who observes, the witness Purusha, who can stand detached from the play of the nature, observing it and able to choose. It has to put itself always on the side of the psychic being and assent to and support its movements, and to reject the downward and outward movement of the lower nature, which has to be subjected to the psychic and changed by its influence. Yeah, so the ordinary mind knows itself only as an ego with all the movements of the nature in a jumble. That is when that sort of separation in consciousness, witness वगैरह का शुरू नहीं हुआ है. So it's all वो hodgepodge सारा एक साथ है. And identifying itself with these movements, thinks, now ये जो है I am doing this, feeling that, thinking in joy or in sorrow, etc. गीता में in नैव किंचित करोमीति, I do not do anything at all. Like this, there are like a few verses in the 6th chapter. So I'll share that. Usme the condition of the sadh or the yogi basically is described as naiva kinchit karomiti. I na eva kinchit karomi iti. I do not do anything at all. I am the witness. ठीक है. उसमें और भी वर्सेस हैं, लंबा होता है, where it describes all the activities. पश्यन् शृण्वन् स्पृशन् जिघ्रन् अश्नन् गच्छन् स्वपन् श्वसन् प्रलपन् विसृजन् गृह्णन् उन्मिषन् निमिषन्नपि इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेषु वर्तन्त इति धारयन्. All these things, seeing, pashyan, sprishan, jigran, smelling, touching, all this thing. Indriyani indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharayan. It is the senses which are moving among the objects of the senses. Indriyani indriyartheshu. Indriyartha means the objects of the senses. Vartanta, moving. Iti dharayan. He feels like that. And naiva kinchit karomi. I do not do anything at all. This is a fundamental and one of the milestones in yoga wherein one is able to see this कि ये सब हो रहा है. All this is the play of the gunas. All this is the play of the lower nature. ये मैं नहीं कर रहा हूं. This is all happening on its own, and then once this awareness comes, then one has to bring that, obviously, that light of the Purusha into the movements of the Prakriti.
Anmol bhai,
Yes.
this is a very big step. The
हम्म.
first, ये separation आते आते तो दम निकल जाता है.
नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. ऐसा कुछ
मतलब
नहीं है. And
it's
हाँ,
not
जहाँ तक
easy. It takes time. It's not easy.
it's not easy, but
Even if you see partial, even if you get this partially, it is a good. वो थोड़ा शुरू में भी वो
yoga is not easy if you try to do it on your own balam, ठीक है?
हाँ,
But it can become easier. It is never easy that way, but it can become easier if the reliance is on the divine Shakti, if the surrender is there.
हाँ, correct, right.
And and जितना ज्यादा वही the mother में in yoga
In
also it is
proportion,
the
हाँ,
divine who is the sadhaka and the sadhana.
the sadhana, and in
And your
proportion to
significance.
us,
The
हाँ,
more your faith, sincerity and surrender, the more will grace and protection be with you.
be with you,
तो
हाँ,
जितना
correct.
आपका surrender होगा, more and more you will feel that you are doing nothing. It is the divine who is doing everything.
That
Again, that
sentence begins, no, Anmol bhai, in proportion to your surrender.
हाँ, वो मुझे
That
भी याद नहीं
sentence,
है. हाँ, I don't
in
remember.
proportion, she writes, mother speaks in proportion to your aspiration, and this, it is the divine who gives you.
एंड
So,
जैसे आपने जो सेंटेंस बोला कि दम निकल जाता है करके, तो
हाँ,
इसमें भी द गीता मतलब साउंड्स स्लाइटली ऑन द वर्ज ऑफ डिस्पेयर थोड़ा सा, है ना? तो इसमें गीता का क्लियर गाइडलाइन है. श्री
हाँ,
अरविंदो हैज कोटेड दैट मल्टीपल टाइम्स इन हिज लेटर्स टू साधक्स.
हाँ,
योगः अनिर्विण्ण चेतसा, which is translated as yoga should be practiced with a spirit free from despondency. जो डिस्पोंडेंट होगा, जो निराश हो जाएगा, वो योग अभ्यास नहीं कर सकता. This
हाँ.
also comes in the 6th chapter.
नहीं,
Very,
दम
very
निकल जाता
clear.
in the sense it's a huge time gap.
I
It's
understand,
not an
but
instant
I
thing
understand.
like.
I understand. But उसका फिर वो ना कि इतना लग रहा है, हाय क्या हो रहा है, निराश हो रहा
हाँ, नहीं, वो हाँ,
है. हाँ, तो वो and again, why will you will feel that if you are having the sense of doership, वो
हाँ,
doership का sense कम होना चाहिए.
हाँ,
In yoga also, it is the divine who is the sadhaka and the sadhana.
correct.
Or through bhakti, through surrender, that is the fastest way. The path is long, self-surrender makes it short, the way is difficult. Perfect trust makes it easy.
Yeah,
So if you are having that perfect trust, I think I quoted it verbatim. The path is long, ये mother के words हैं. The path is long, self-surrender makes it short. The way is difficult, perfect trust makes it easy.
yeah,
Have that perfect trust in the divine. Anyway, it is who is doing everything. In the Gita, what does Krishna say? Everything that is being done, it is I who am doing it. सब कुछ, सारे क्रियाओं का भोक्ता मैं हूं, जो कुछ हो रहा है मैं ही कर रहा हूं. You are just a निमित्त. These people are already killed.
true.
Maya hatan, tvam jahi. You just do the slaying part, right? And वो तो हाँ, everything is being done by the divine.
Yeah.
To get into
No,
that consciousness, हाँ.
correct. What I meant was really that
मैं
कि
समझ गया आपकी बात को.
when
I
we are
understand.
working, especially not fully, that momentum of the past, continues
Yeah.
to play on
Yes.
you.
Yes. Yes.
And you can't apply the brakes immediately until that momentum slows down and comes
Yes.
to inertial
That
rest.
momentum slowing down and all, that is one of those ways taught in that, जो 3 ways to silence the mind था ना, So this
हाँ
was one of the ways which Sri Aurobindo told. कि you just wait and let that momentum of thoughts come down and वो एक बार pause आ जाएगा, then you can experience some of that silence.
करेक्ट
Then
करेक्ट
second वाला था where आप थोड़ा और separate करके चलते हैं and you see the movements of the prakriti ऐसे separately. These are two passive. ठीक है? Then the third is the active one wherein you, as you see that the thoughts are coming into you from outside and before they enter you, you fling them away. Because that is the active method, that is the fastest.
yeah but it's very brute force यार I find that very
It
brute force
requires brute force कह सकते हो आप उसको, but that's what Sri Aurobindo followed. It requires the maximum willpower, obviously. But if you can do
हाँ
it, you will be free the fastest. आप एक Sri Aurobindo got free in 1 day. 1 day. His mind became entirely silent. And it was so powerful that when mother came and sat next to him 4 साल बाद 6 साल बाद उनका mind silent हो गया. पिछले क्लास में भी मैंने बोला था इसके बारे में कि
yeah yeah
yeah.
yeah
Okay. So the first beginning of real self knowledge is when, हाँ ये बहुत important, again very clear guidelines वो बता रहे हैं, सिखा रहे हैं हमको कैसे हमको पता चलेगा. The first beginning of real self knowledge, even I'm sorry, जो last वाला point था उसमें, there are some important shlokas in the Gita. This one is in the 4th chapter, जहाँ पे वो कहता है कर्मण्य कर्मयः पश्येद अकर्मणि च कर्मयः स बुद्धिमान मनुष्येषु स युक्तः कृत्स्न कर्म कृत. He who sees action in inaction and inaction in action. He is a yogi, he is an intelligent among men, and he is a doer of all action. So why even whilst you are doing everything, to have the sense कि आप कुछ कर नहीं रहे हो, because actually देखा जाए सब कुछ हो रहा है. And if we see our life, how much of what happens is actually in our control till the time we are in ego. When that
true
psychic
true
new birth
true
happens, then we can actually become conscious masters of our own life and destiny. But वो तो चीजें हो रही हैं ना. How much of are these things what are happening are we able to control, right? But उसके बारे में conscious होना, and then you surrender to that wisdom which is at work. Again,
very
surrender can be a very dangerous thing also if it is passive. It can make you more tamasic. तो इसीलिए गीता में surrender एकदम लास्ट में बोलते हैं. Sri Aurobindo, because he is taking up from where the Gita left off, so he begins with surrender. It's
yeah
important
I
to.
think in the mother he exemplifies all the three tamasic surrender not exemplifies but he mentions all these three types of surrenders passivity inert
Yeah,
passivity does not bring
yeah. That's the tamasic surrender.
uh,
Hmm. Yeah, so that is that. I think it is 4.18 that shloka. Karmani akarmayah pashyet, karmanya karmayah pashyet, akarmani cha karmayah.
will you paste that as well as a
I
link
will
later
certainly do it, yeah.
and can you help with the correlation of this shloka with the second chapter where जो मुनि के लिए रात होता है वो दिन that shloka is there
हाँ हाँ. या
sapashya
निशा सर्वभूतानां पश्याम, या निशा सर्वभूतानां यस्याम
sarvabhutanam हाँ
जागृति संयमी,
हाँ
यस्याम जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुने.
पश्यतो मुनेः हाँ so for muni so is this very similar or is this the day and night mentioned here is ignorance and the way I
Yes,
so it's
yes,
the same thing no where they are very
yes.
interrelated no
Yes.
can we say that
Basically, I mean, the way I understand it is like this. Very
हाँ
simple. जैसे
हाँ
गैलीलियो था, ठीक है?
हाँ
He said कि it is the heliocentric which is the truth, right?
correct हाँ
People saying no, geocentric is the truth. So
correct
as long as one is in the egoistic consciousness, one thinks that the world is revolving around oneself. When you come into your senses, then you
true true
realize that no, it is the divine around whom the world is revolving. That is the difference, stark difference between the ignorance and the knowledge.
A very, very concrete example. I love the metaphor example.
उमा दारु जोशित की नाई सबहु न चावत राम गोसाई. दिस कम्स इन रामचरितमानस, तुलसी रामायण. के
अच्छा
कठपुतली की तरह जो है, गीता
हाँ
में भी ईश्वरः सर्वभूतानां हृद्देशे अर्जुन तिष्ठति भ्रामयन् सर्वभूतानि यंत्रारूढ़ानि मायया.
माया हाँ माया हाँ हाँ
तो व्हेन यू रियलाइज दैट सब कुछ भगवान के इर्द गिर्द घूम रहा है, दैट इज नॉलेज. बट उस तक आने में टाइम लगता है. नॉर्मली वी थिंक कुछ भी हो रहा है, कल इंडिया क्रिकेट मैच जीत गई तो मैंने कुछ अच्छा किया इसकी वजह से वो जीत गई. That is the difference of night and day. I mean, it can be taken in that way.
true true no
Yeah.
very beautiful so these two
But
I we can
just
correlate
one
right
point
these
here,
two are related 6
Yes,
Anmol.
yes, Yogesh ji.
Just one point here.
Yeah.
See, at the end of the day, the
Uh,
starting point is this, that you have to go beyond the ego and become aware, which is
Yes.
what the psychic being is doing,
Yes.
that
Yes.
there is the Lord Master, and this is his creation and it's his play. This
Yes.
is the first step.
Yes.
But to go to say that we as human beings then therefore have no role and it is only him, I don't think so, because there has to
नहीं,
be
correct, correct,
that follow up.
correct.
Whereas when you come into divinity and you become
Exactly.
like, because all the teachings of Shri Aurobindo show him
Exactly.
that he can do so many things that we can't even fathom of, right?
Exactly.
How could he do it? Because
Exactly.
he is no longer in a ego
He is no
consciousness.
longer in an ego consciousness. Correct.
Correct. So
But because
therefore,
we,
to say that
yes.
we cannot come to that stage, I don't think so is
No,
a
no, 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 no. We can come to that state, and our aim is to reach that state. Okay, that
right, right,
enlightened
right.
state. But generally, मतलब वो उसको cross करने में it takes some time to completely get rid of that divisive consciousness, that egoistic consciousness, and to reach that and stabilize in that status of, because ठीक है, you are learning, आप कुछ practice कर रहे हैं, and you are growing in that, but then suddenly किसी ने कुछ बोल दिया या life में कुछ हो गया, there is a tendency to fall back. एकदम से ये क्या हुआ, one tends to forget it. So one has to make a sustained effort to stabilize in that consciousness of knowledge, basically, in that consciousness
Absolutely,
of unity.
absolutely, completely agree.
That is
Yes,
all. That is all. So the first beginning of real self-knowledge is when you feel yourself separate from the nature in you and its movements. Yes. And then you see that there are many parts of your being. ये बहुत शिवानंद की इंपॉर्टेंट टीचिंग है, that there are many parts of your being, many personalities, sorry, each acting on its own behalf and in its own way. This is the, I mean, he calls it the synthesis of yoga में the embarrassing complexity of our nature. Something like this is the phrase he uses. कि सब अपने अपने डायरेक्शन में भाग रहे हैं. माइंड को ये चाहिए, वाइटल को वो चाहिए, बॉडी को वो चाहिए, सोल को केवल डिवाइन चाहिए, दैट सिंगल हार्टेड अनन्यता. But many personalities, each acting on its own behalf and in its own way. Matlab, even when we take to yoga, so okay, the psychic being is caught hold of, the higher part of the mind is caught hold of, and we are all भगवान भगवान और कुछ नहीं, योग करना है, योग करना है, योग करना है. बट हमारे अंदर के जो एम्बिशंस हैं, पैशंस हैं, अपने खुद के आइडियाज एक्सेट्रा, नहीं ये होना चाहिए, नहीं ऐसे होना चाहिए, सो दैट फुल सरेंडर, एंड that takes time. It's a process. And one should enjoy that journey also. One should not be in too big a haste कि हाँ बस पहुंच जाना है, ऐसा नहीं है. That tends to then cut away and then थोड़ा वो ascetic element ज्यादा आ जाता है. So that
Yeah,
is also
lower
not
members
good.
also have to be satisfied in their own way.
Yes, each
When
part
also,
in us desires its absolute.
हाँ तो वो भी हमको ध्यान रखना है, नहीं तो वो सप्रेशन हो जाएगा बाद में ना.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
फिर
But
वो तो
mother,
वॉल्केनिक.
the solution for this, what the mother, the word she gives is
हाँ,
integrating all the parts of your being
अराउंड द
around your
साइकिक.
psyche.
हाँ, अराउंड द साइकिक भी.
Integrating or unifying.
हाँ.
ये एग्जाम्पल मैंने पहले भी दिया था कि इन द आई थिंक लेट 60s, अराउंड द टाइम आई थिंक व्हेन ऑरोविल वाज स्टार्टेड, सो वर्ल्ड यूनियन नाम से भी एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन यहाँ बना था. सम डिसाइपल्स क्रिएटेड इट, आई डोंट नो हु क्रिएटेड इट. सो दे आस्क्ड मदर फॉर अ मैसेज फॉर दैट, फॉर वर्ल्ड यूनियन, लाइक दैट. एंड मदर सेड, आई मीन दैट वे, कि फर्स्ट यूनिफाई द डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ योर ओन बीइंग. कि पूरी दुनिया को बाद में यूनाइट करना, ऑब्वियसली फर्स्ट थिंग दैट यू हैव टू डू इज टू यूनाइट योर ओन different personalities. And again I should मतलब say it here कि वेस्टर्न साइकोलॉजी जो है और ये मल्टीपल पर्सनालिटी डिसऑर्डर, वो होता होगा कुछ लोगों में, स्किज़ोफ्रेनिया और ये सब जो भी वो बोलते हैं, बट इट ऑल्सो शोज दैट दे डोंट हैव दैट डेप्थ ऑफ नॉलेज. वो जितना पता है उसके बेसिस पे दे आर डायग्नोजिंग इट, और वो उसका फिर वो उस साइकोलॉजी से ट्रीटमेंट वगैरह कर रहे हैं. बट द रियल सोल्यूशन फॉर दैट लाइज इन स्पिरिचुअलिटी एंड योगा, राइट?
दे गो आउटसाइड इन, हम लोग इनसाइड आउट जा रहे हैं. अपना जो
एग्जैक्ट,
है, जो
वेरी
आउटसाइड इन अप्रोच, वो मटेरियल
वेरी
बेसिस ही
वेल
है
सर,
अभी भी.
वेरी वेल सर, वेरी वेल सर. एक तो दे गो आउटसाइड इन, और दूसरा दे ट्राई टू गो बॉटम अप. सो दे ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड द स्काई बाय एनालाइजिंग द मड, बेसिकली. That does not work. The proper approach is top down. First you have to contact that highest. Like आपको किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को समझना है, लेट्स से, ठीक है, यू आर इन अ कंपनी, यू आर वर्किंग देयर. In order to understand, आपको टेस्ला समझना है, you have to understand how Elon Musk thinks. Okay,
Yeah.
if you understand that, the culture flows top down like that.
Yes, yes.
So similarly, if you have to understand the world, God is the CEO of the world. So you have to understand God. Our life is a paradox with God for key. जब तक वो समझ में नहीं आएगा तब तक कुछ समझ में नहीं आएगा. उपनिषद
Correct.
यस्मिन् विज्ञाते सर्वम विज्ञातम भवति. Know that, मतलब by knowing which everything else becomes known. That's why, मतलब it's a good thing to follow in practice कि through one, इवन इफ इट मे बी नैरो टू बिगिन विद, एक चीज पकड़ के योगा में कुछ भी हो, ध्यान हो, जप हो, भक्ति हो, कुछ भी हो, अराइव एट एन एंट्री इनटू द किंगडम ऑफ द डिवाइन. एक बार उसका ग्लिम्स मिले, गेट इन टच विद इट, एंड एक बार वो पकड़ में आ गया, देन यू कैन नॉट लेट इट गो. और वो खुद नहीं छोड़ेगा आपको. इट्स नॉट दैट यू आर होल्डिंग ऑन टू द डिवाइन, ही इज होल्डिंग ऑन टू यू. बट फर्स्ट गेट अ ग्लिम्स, फर्स्ट गेट सम टच, सम कॉन्क्रीट टच, तब चीजें अपने आप समझ में आएंगी. दिस इज अ वेरी सेन एडवाइस. आई कैन बोल सकता हूं मैं उसमें. यू नो
True.
कुछ भी हो सकता है. एनीथिंग विच वर्क्स फॉर यू. डिफरेंट थिंग्स वर्क फॉर डिफरेंट पीपल. वट एवर वर्क्स फॉर यू. बट जो भी चीज आप रीडिंग, रीडिंग कैन वर्क. सावित्री वगैरह, लेटर्स वगैरह, इतनी एनर्जी है उसके अंदर. जस्ट रीडिंग दीज कैन क्रिएट दैट ओपनिंग इन यू. धवल भाई ने लास्ट टाइम सजेशन दिया था सरिता जिंदल को, राइट? सो ओके, 8:48. Yeah, the two different beings you feel are: one, the psychic being which draws you towards the mother. The other, the external being, mostly vital, which draws you outward and downwards towards the play of the lower nature. I should add, lest I forget, कि जैसे मैंने नलिनी कांता गुप्ता का, नलिनी दा, I had shared one recording of his on the group. So this letter I had just heard in his voice today. So I'll share it. It's very nice. It's very powerful voice. He had attained a very high consciousness. He had become a god practically in a human body. Overmind बोलते हैं शिव बंधु उसको. So it is there in his voice. I'll share it. ये बहुत होता है, पता है. The psychic being drawing us towards the mother, but the external being mostly vital, which draws you outward and downward towards the play of the lower nature. So, this is the constant battle, the inner war without escape, as it is called in Savitri.
True. True.
There
This
is
is
also in you, behind the mind, the being who observes. Now he's coming to the mediator bit, कि psychic वहां खींच रहा है और vital नीचे और मतलब बाहर लेकर के जा रहा है. The witness Purusha, who can stand detached from the play of the nature, observing it and able to choose. Right? So use this witness, he's saying. This witness has to put itself always on the side of the psychic being. In you, behind the mind, the being who observes. So this is the Manomaya Purusha, basically.
the act of deliberation.
हाँ. This is the Manomaya Purusha, behind the mind, the being who observes, the witness, Purusha. This has to put itself always on the side of the psychic being. हमारी जो बुद्धि है वो आत्मा के साथ युक्त हो, ना कि प्राण के साथ. कि wherever the vital wants to take us, we say yes, self deceiver, and वो आगे चले जाए. नहीं. On the side of the psychic being, and assent to and support its movements, and to reject the downward and outward movement of the lower nature. Yeah. This is that discrimination, Viveka. It has to put itself always on the side of the psychic being and assent to and support its movements and to reject the downward and outward movement of the lower nature. Upanishad में इसके लिए एक श्लोक है. In the कठोपनिषद, I think. श्रेयस और प्रेयस करके ये दो वर्ड्स आते हैं उसमें. श्रेयश्च प्रेयश्च मनुष्यमेतत् तौ संपरित्य विविनक्ति धीरः. Second part I don't remember clearly, but Shreyas something something. So Shreyas is that which is going to take you higher. Okay. Preyas is that which is pleasing to you, and it is applicable at all levels. It can be food, it can be emotions, feeling, relationship, this, that. क्या पढ़ना है, क्या, every, all levels, mental, vital, physical, all levels. This is pleasing, right? But no. As opposed to that is that which is Shreyas, which is actually good for your soul. गीता में भी वही जो सत्वगुणा के बारे में बोलते हैं ना, कि दैट प्लेजर विच यू फाइंड इनिशियली विच इज फुल ऑफ दिस थिंग अमृत, बट देन इट इज विष, वो राजसिक है. बट द सात्विक सुख यत्तदग्रे विषमिव परिणामे अमृतोपमम तत्सुखम सात्विकम प्रोक्तम आत्मबुद्धि प्रसादजम. कि दैट प्लेजर विच इज लाइक विष इन द बिगिनिंग. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट श्लोक है गीता का. मे बी more applicable for मतलब younger age, but very यत्तदग्रे विषमिव परिणामे अमृतोपमम 18th चैप्टर में आता है। तो जो अग्र में इनिशियल यत्तदग्रे विषमिव विष की तरह लगे, पॉइजन की तरह, परिणामे अमृतोपमम, बट इन इट्स रिजल्ट इट इज लाइक नेक्टर। तत्सुखम सात्विकम प्रोक्तम आत्मबुद्धि प्रसादजम, दैट सुख इज सात्विक, right? So similar thing, these are all, I'm just quoting different to show that.
It's very important, Anmol bhai, this what you're just saying, because even in Arjuna asked Krishna in second chapter, Yat Shreyasya Nishchitam Bruhi Tanmai. What is Shreya for me?
Yes,
Because
exactly.
that
Very nice.
indicates he's a
Thank you.
sattvic
Thank you
nature.
so much. Yes, yes. Tell me what is good for me. The same word जो उपनिषद का word है, यत् श्रेयस निश्चितम ब्रूहि तन्मे, जो मेरे लिए श्रेयस्कर है वो निश्चित रूप से मुझे बताएं।
So Anmol bhai, in the second chapter we have Brahmi Sthiti discussion. So this witness Purusha will help you stabilize or rather reach the
Yes,
Brahmi Sthiti?
definitely, definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
I think, Anmol, the other thing which is very relevant to exactly what Dhaval Bhai said just now is the moment you become aware of the psychic being and are connected to the divine, you become a witness to the lower nature which is tugging at you. See, if you are at level 1, when you are at the ego consciousness, you are completely identified with the mind body complex. And
Identifying
if you
itself
want
in this
something,
way.
it's like, I want to eat chocolate ice cream now. Everything is like, I have already decided that I'm yogi and I want to have chocolate ice cream. The moment you are one level above, where you are connected to the divinity, when you're taking that effort, which is what he's defining, the fact that you are stabilized in that, you see, but this is a desire which is coming up. It's a play of nature. So what is very important, where he said there are multiple beings playing within, the fact that you evolve to the next level, you become a witness to the lower play. Till that, how can you control something that you don't see? But by becoming this witnessing consciousness, you are seeing the play of nature, and now you are capable of controlling it. So therefore, I like when he says these multiple beings playing within you. It reminded me, there was, Anmol, an earlier lecture that you had done where you had brought in these three terms, and I was thinking those three terms are these three stages which are here, which was, exclusive concentration of consciousness, multiple concentration of consciousness, and integral concentration of consciousness. The first is that you are completely exclusively in the mind body identification, which is where he's saying that you are in the ego consciousness. The second one, where you are trying to meditate, you do get aware that there are times when you meditate, you become visible to the witnessing aspect or the psychic being within you, is that you see, okay, there is that element playing within me. It's there. I can always reach out to it, right? So it's only when you reach out to that can you become visible to the ego consciousness play and therefore control it in some which way.
Yes. Yeah. Correct. Shall I move forward?
Yeah.
It has to put itself always on the side of the psychic being and assent to and support its movements. Yeah, we've correct. Which has to be subjected to the psychic and changed by its influence. So 8:55, around 15 more minutes we have. We started at 8:10 approximately.
Can you space that, Anmol bhai, later on, that 18 point? Which one? Sorry, or I'll write it down right now.
कौन सा?
Shreya Preya ka 18, Gita chapter
नहीं,
18.
Shreyas Preyas is from the Upanishad.
Okay, sorry.
Yattadagre vishamiva pariname amritopamam, sorry, that is from the Gita. Oh, मिल जाएगा, it's quite easy to find.
Okay.
That I'll paste.
Okay, thank you.
Even the Upanishad words, since I
both
remember the first
related. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah.
No problem. Okay, the psychic or soul and the lower nature. Archana ji, would you like to read this? Just कितना है ये? काफी है. We can at least just read it. का ज़्यादा बड़ा भी नहीं है. I think we can cover it. Or anybody else? Yogesh bhai, Dhaval bhai have participated.
Yeah, I can read.
हाँ,
I'll
please.
read a few and maybe the
हाँ,
next person.
please. हाँ.
The psychic or soul and the lower nature. All belongs to nature. The soul itself acts under the conditions and by the agency of nature. The moral of the condition you describe is not that yoga should not be done, but that you have to go on steadily healing the rift between the two parts of the being. The division is very usual, almost universal in human nature, and the following of the lower impulse, in spite of the contrary will in the higher parts, happens to almost everybody. It is a phenomenon noted by Arjuna in his question to Krishna. Why does one do evil, even though one wishes not to do it, as if compelled to it by force? And expressed sententiously by Ovid, Vidyo melioro probokyo, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Video meliora provoke, deteriora secure. Yeah, I think Latin hoga.
There's
Yeah.
a footnote for it, right?
Yeah, I'm just clicking on it. I see the better and approve of it. I follow the verse.
Beautiful. This is very true. Holier than thou types.
Next. Continue, Archana ji.
By constant effort and aspiration, one can arrive at a turning point when the psychic asserts itself, and what seems a very slight psychological change or reversal alters the whole balance of the nature. Every soul is not awake and active, nor is every soul turned directly to the divine before practicing yoga. For a long time, it seeks the divine through men and things much more than directly. In the ordinary consciousness, in which the mind, etc., are not awakened, the psychic acts as well as it can through them, but according to the laws of ignorance.
Yeah, we'll just
Anybody
pause
else
here.
want to continue?
We'll pause here.
As Archana ji was reading, our passions grope in dark, and वो सावित्री की lines याद आ जाती है. When
Yeah.
ordinary conscious mind is not awakened.
Our passions grow.
Our passions grope in dark, yeah, something. That line is.
Towards whom? It speaks of
So,
the mother. All our passions are also in their blindness, ultimately groping towards her only.
yes, right. वो mother का
The
वो
adoration of the Divine Mother.
divine mother. Yes, yes, yes.
The psychic or soul and the lower nature all belongs to nature. The soul itself acts under the conditions and by the agency of nature. So in this hemisphere, lower hemisphere where we are, nature is, kind of all powerful. She has her full sway. Prakritim yanti bhutani nigrah kim karishyati. गीता के 3rd चैप्टर में आता है कि even the wise men follow prakritim yanti bhutani. Men follow nature. Prakritim yanti. वो it's just a partial shloka. It's not to डिप्रेस यू और डिस्करेज यू. वो गीता अपने आर्ग्यूमेंट को बिल्ड करने वो फ्लो में वो बोलती है प्रकृतिम यान्ति भूतानि निग्रह किम करिष्यति. Men follow nature, what can restrain to, like that. Even the wise man follows nature, उसी के आसपास एक है ऐसे करके. So this is just to show that कि all belongs to nature. The soul itself acts under the conditions and by the agency of nature.
3 point, which one you said? 3 point?
नंबर मैंने नहीं बताया. 3.27 28 के आसपास है. I'll give all the references जितना भी मैं
Okay,
refer
okay,
कर रहा
wonderful.
हूँ.
ठीक है,
हाँ.
ठीक है. नहीं, मैं नोट कर रहा हूँ इसके लिए.
हाँ.
That's why.
हाँ. हाँ. ठीक है. Next, the moral of the condition you describe is not that yoga should not be done, but that you have to go on steadily healing the rift between the two parts of the being. ये नहीं कि बस मतलब वो एक अंदर की अपनी भक्ति में डूबे हुए हैं, swoon में है एक kind of, and let our outer nature, lower nature act as it like. So that is not the integral yoga. It is, I mean, it's not. And healing the rift between the two parts of the being. Look at the word healing.
Yes.
healing the rift between the two parts of the being. वो जो lower part है वो suffer कर रहा है in its ignorance, in its darkness. It is actually suffering from itself. It is that healing touch from the psychic being which should come and, healing the rift between the two parts of the being. By the two parts is meant the psychic and the vital part, and basically which takes us lower. The division is very usual, almost universal in human nature. तो हम कोई चुने हुए नहीं है कि जिसके अंदर ये सब कुछ बुरा है, नहीं. Is very usual, almost universal in human nature, and the following of the lower impulse in spite of the contrary will in the higher parts happens to almost everybody.
Universal phenomena है तुम.
I mean, you get also so much solace. मतलब
Yeah.
the understanding which Sri Aurobindo has, the compassion which he has,
Yeah.
and that compassion is based on understanding. The understanding that he has of human nature, it's just unprecedented.
तू अकेला नहीं है. You are not alone. I am there with you.
Contrary will in the higher parts happens to almost everybody. It is the phenomena noted by Arjuna in the
See, Anmol bhai,
question.
another point worth noting here is I found that other yogas may let the lower parts suffer. Not every yoga will also elevate the lower parts to that highest level.
Because their aim is not the liberation of the nature. Their aim is just the liberation of the soul.
इसीलिए
So,
ये जो साध्वी बन जाते हैं जैनिज्म में, not to denigrate, but it is a suppression to some extent, I feel, because then they feel returning back to the from the sannyasa world. So this healing will not let you return because it's a very different aim, as you said.
Govindo said actually,
Huh?
there is a set of aphorisms, 5 or 6, in
Huh.
which he contrasts the ideal of the sannyasi
Huh.
with that of the Rajarshi. And therein he says that sannyasa has been, widely preached and variously practiced. And then he says, among the thousands of sannyasis, how many are there who are perfect? And then he says कि let it be the same for the Rajarshi ideal. कि जो गीता का ideal है राजर्षि वाला,
हाँ
सन्यासी का ideal is not the ideal of the Gita, very clearly. Okay?
हाँ हाँ
हाँ,
हाँ
उसका भी प्रचार हो, and then we will see how many perfectly liberated beings are there who are not leaving the world, and वो उस तरह का निग्रह नहीं है, उस तरह का hypocrisy नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है. And basically, I mean, if you go away, then you lose the purpose for which the world was created by the divine. सबसे fundamental बात तो ये है.
हाँ,
If
cessation
you
of birth
cut
by
away
birth.
yourself and go into nirvana or moksha or laya or some heavenly world like Vaikuntha, etc. But what was your purpose of coming here? If your purpose of coming here was to escape from here, then why did you come here in the first place? On the one hand, you say that there is a infinite and omniscient energy, wisdom, etc., which is governing the world. Then that wisdom has created the world just so that the world should be run away from. That does not make any sense.
Anmol, but if you reflect what you just shared about these two approaches, the first line, it begins with all belongs to nature. The
Yeah.
soul itself acts under the conditions and by the agency of nature. That shows that nature itself decides some souls to come to that midway point of a sannyasi and not evolve more,
Yeah, that
and
is
other
correct.
souls to evolve from the sannyasi stage to the Raj Rishi,
That is
because nature
correct,
is
but
controlling.
that is correct, but therein he is not talking of the. वहां पे वो बात कर रहे हैं कि all belongs to nature माने कि nature वो हावी है, nature is dominant, and you have to make some effort to get out of the grip of nature. वहां पे वो उस चीज की बात कर रहे हैं. आप जो बोल रहे हैं उसका मीनिंग ये है कि कुछ लोग फॉर एग्जाम्पल दे आर प्री कंडीशनड फॉर संन्यास बिकॉज ऑफ देयर प्रीवियस लाइफ, वो वैसे चलते आ रहे हैं. सो इट इज समथिंग नेचुरल, एंड अगेन सी, integral fulfillment will never be ruled out for any soul ever. It's just that if you have gone too far away from the completeness, then it will be more difficult for you to come back to it. You will find it more difficult because आपने अपने आप को इतना ज्यादा कट कर दिया है चीजों से कि आप वापस नहीं आ पाओगे. But that is what even ऐसे on the Gita में श्री अरबिंदो says कि बुद्ध का एग्जाम्पल देते हैं, विवेकानंद का एग्जाम्पल देते हैं कि फॉर सम पीपल संन्यास, इफ इट इज नेसेसरी, it is necessary. All goes into the bonfire, like that he says. All karma has to go into bonfire. So sannyasa is useful where it is useful, but it's not the ideal thing.
Right. But Anmol, should we, with this initial part where it says all belongs to nature, the soul itself acts under the conditions and by the agency of nature, should we take this that whatever is placed, like all of us, for whatever phase in life we are in, whatever circumstances we've been put into, it's perfect because that's nature wanting us to be there. That means there's no dispute in the perfection of all of us being planted at the right place at the right time all the time. It's the external which is always in control, and that's nature. How we internally engage with it, with the evolution, understanding the psychic being within us, and dealing with us is the journey, but the external game does not change. Is that a right interpretation then?
The right way, as I understand it, is this: कि my soul has chosen these particular life circumstances. मतलब इस birth की बात करते हैं to begin with, okay? So it has chosen, if it was wise enough to choose, or some other wiser entity in the psychic world chose this particular birth and circumstance for it, okay? Then afterwards, till a certain age, till you are a child or whatever, your parents make decisions for you, this, that. But उसके बाद जस्ट ये मान लेना कि जो कुछ हो रहा है वो ठीक हो रहा है, दैट मे नॉट बी एग्जैक्टली करेक्ट. भैया, आप सबके अंदर एक चॉइस करने की कैपेसिटी इज गिवन बाय द डिवाइन, राइट? सो इट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट चॉइस यू आर मेकिंग. Nature, what he is meaning here is कि everything acts through the agency of nature. माने you are there in the gunas and you have to become a more and more sattvic person, and then you have to become gunatita. But again, I mean, all I'm saying is कि after a certain age, at least, when your mind is developed enough, like mother for example was like, बच्चों को थोड़ी ना पता है कि उनको योग करना है, क्या करना है. They are too young to decide. So let them grow up, let them reach the age where they can decide for themselves, and then if they want to join the ashram, I'm talking of the children who studied in the ashram school, right? Same in life. You make your own choices. You make your own choices, and with that psychic being within you, that tells you what is the right and the truth. आपने उसको सुना कि नहीं सुना, तो नेचर का प्ले तो हमेशा ही रहेगा. इवन अभी हम इस सेशन में बैठे, हम योग वगैरह की बातें कर रहे हैं, राइट? बट टेम्पटेशंस, दिस दैट फ्रॉम द वर्ल्ड, दे विल स्टिल कीप कमिंग, राइट? तो अगर हम उनको फॉलो करें और हम एस्ट्रे चले जाएं तो फिर, एंड बोल दें कि ये तो नेचर का खेल था, तो फिर ये तो हिपोक्रेसी हो गई ना.
Right. So what it says is that it is all powerful, it is controlled. Because see, the moment it says the soul, the previous line, it says the soul itself acts, I get it, under the conditions and by the agency of nature.
Yes.
It's by the agency of nature
Yes.
that
तो
the
अभी
soul
नेचर
is.
क्या है? वी आर ऑल सोल्स, ठीक है? नेचर क्या है? माइंड, वाइटल एंड बॉडी. अभी हम अपना बॉडी यूज कर रहे हैं. आई एम यूजिंग माई माउथ टू स्पीक. वी आर यूजिंग अवर माइंड्स टू अंडरस्टैंड. द प्राणा इज लाइक द इलेक्ट्रिसिटी ऑफ द कंप्यूटर एंड ऑल दैट, राइट? तो the soul is there, but how else will it act except through the agency of nature? Anything and everything. Yoga also happens through the agency of nature only. What yoga you are going to practice? Jnana yoga, you have to use your mind. Bhakti yoga, you have to use your emotions. Hatha yoga, you have to use your body. So everything happens through the agency of nature, and in that process the nature itself becomes liberated and transformed.
Correct, because it ends, if you see exactly what you're saying, because it says by constant effort and aspiration, one can arrive at a turning point when the psychic asserts itself, and what seems a very slight psychological change or reversal alters the whole balance of the nature.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. Thanks. So we'll just complete the 4 things read by Archana ji today. 4 letters. It's already 9:10, 1 घंटा तो हो गया, but yeah, 5-10 minutes max. So it is the phenomenon noted by Arjuna. ये 3.36 है. अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पूरुषः अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलादिव नियोजितः. Propelled by what? अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पूरुषः. Does a man walk the path of sin? अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय. उसकी इच्छा नहीं है तब भी अनिच्छन्न अपि वार्ष्णेय, ओ वार्ष्णेय, बलाद इव नियोजितः. As if put into that, niyojitah, by force, bala. Okay, this is 3.36 towards that's the last part of the 3rd chapter. Then he gives kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhava. It is because of rajoguna, और उस rajoguna से उत्पन्न kama और krodha, it is those which lead you on the path of the sin, on the path of wrong, right? So it is a phenomenon noted by Arjuna in his question to Krishna. Why does one do evil even though one wishes not to do it, as if compelled to do it by force? And expressed sententiously by Ovid. Now, I'm sorry, I don't know who is Ovid. नीचे बुक का भी नाम दिया था, मेटामॉर्फोसिस, आई डोंट नो, लैटिन ग्रीक सम बुक में भी देयर, वीडियो मेलियोरा प्रोबोक डेटीरियोरा सिक्योर। इसका एक महाभारत का और रेफरेंस बहुत कोट किया जाता है। द वर्स इज एट्रीब्यूटेड टू दुर्योधना, जानामि धर्मम न च मे प्रवृत्ति ही, कि मैं जानता हूं धर्म क्या है बट मेरी उसमें प्रवृत्ति नहीं है। ठीक है, जानामि अधर्मम न च मे निवृत्ति ही, आई नो वट इज रॉन्ग ऑल्सो, बट मैं उससे अपने आप को छुड़ा नहीं पाता, निवृत्त नहीं हो पाता उससे। जानामि धर्मम न च मे प्रवृत्ति ही, जानाम्य धर्मम न च मे निवृत्ति ही, त्वया हृषीकेश हृदय स्थितेन यथा नियुक्तोस्मि तथा करोमि। So as you, O Rishikesha, seated in my heart, appoint me to my work, so I do. I mean, I find it difficult to, मतलब मैंने वो, I haven't encountered this in my own reading of the Mahabharata, तो I find it little difficult to believe कि दुर्योधन ने बोला होगा, because this is bhakti. त्वया हृषिकेश हृदय स्थितेन यथा नियुक्तोस्मि। तो but whatever it is, the verse exists in Sanskrit literature, कि this is the problem.
If
कि
he
अब नहीं,
was so, if he was so knowledgeable, then he
नहीं,
wouldn't have.
that's why I mean people, होगा, could be दुर्योधना, but you have to think more and understand कि how it could be दुर्योधना। एंड वो उसमें भी तो ना वो तामसिक बोल रहा है, यथा नियुक्तोस्मि तथा करोमि, त्वया ऋषिकेश हृदय स्थितेन, आपके द्वारा ओ ऋषिकेश जो मेरे हृदय में बैठे हुए हैं, जैसा आप मुझे नियुक्त कर रहे हैं मैं कर रहा हूं, मतलब मेरी कोई रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं है। अगर मैं गलत कर रहा हूं तो वो गलत भी आप करा रहे हो, सही कर रहा हूं तो सही भी आप करा रहे हो। ये क्या बात हुई यार? दिस इज नॉट, अर्जुन की तरह फिर पूछना चाहिए ना,
हाँ
शिष्यस्ते हम शाधिमाम त्वाम प्रपन्नम, आई एम योर
हाँ
शिष्य,
हाँ,
एनलाइटन मी।
बराबर।
एनीवे सो ये थर्ड जो एक रेफरेंस याद आया था, आई जस्ट शेयर्ड इट।
गीता में नहीं है ना ये तो,
ये
ये तो।
गीता में नहीं, इट्स इन
हाँ
महाभारत।
हाँ।
एक बार बोल देता हूँ, ये इतना कॉमन है। जानामि धर्मम न च मे प्रवृत्ति ही, जानाम्य धर्मम न च मे निवृत्ति ही, त्वया हृषीकेश हृदय स्थितेन यथा नियुक्तोस्मि तथा करोमि। दिस इज द वर्ड्स। ठीक है, मैं पेस्ट कर दूंगा इसको, कोई
ठीक
रेफरेंस होगा महाभारत का जहां पे पूरा आएगा तो वो भी डाल दूंगा। बाय कांस्टेंट एफर्ट एंड एस्पिरेशन वन कैन अराइव एट अ टर्निंग पॉइंट व्हेन द साइकिक असर्ट्स इटसेल्फ। यस, ये इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है। वही गीता जो बोलती है ना, सतत युक्त, कांस्टेंट एफर्ट, तेषां सतत युक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकम, सतत युक्त, by constant effort and aspiration one can arrive at a turning point, see the word turning point, when the psychic asserts itself. Hmm? And what seems a very slight psychological change or reversal alters the whole balance of the nature. Wow, fantastic. A
So
step
it,
and all is sky and God, शौविंदो की एक पोएम में एक लाइन आती है, तो वो
look at this, a very small psychological change alters. That means इतना भी हुआ तो आपका पूरा
एग्जैक्टली, जैसे
व्यक्तित्व
सावित्री
बदल
का भी जो
जाएगा।
फर्स्ट कैंटो है ना, लाइक अ पैलेट लिफ्ट, जैसे वो रिफ्ट फ्रॉम द स्काईज, कि इनिशियली दैट सन रे दैट कम्स एज अ जस्ट अ ग्लिम्स, और वो हल्का सा उसको ओपनिंग मिलता है, बट देन स्लोली बूम लाइक दिस द होल थिंग, देयर इज द होल डे ब्रेक
हाँ,
होता है। सेम थिंग द डिवाइन, इनफैक्ट इन द गीता ये इमेज दी गई है कि द डिवाइन विद इन आवर हार्ट इज लाइक द सन, लाइक दैट। 13 चैप्टर के एंड में है, 6 चैप्टर में है, आदित्य तेषाम आदित्यवत ज्ञानम प्रकाशयति तत्परम, आदित्यवत, इट्स लाइक अ सन ऑफ नॉलेज, इट्स लाइक अ सन ऑफ, या नॉलेज ओनली, that is there inside our heart, that is one visualization which one can do for the divine. एक बहुत पावरफुल वर्स है, आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू रिमेंबर इट, इज फ्रॉम द टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द 13th चैप्टर। यथा प्रकाशयत्येकः कृत्स्नं लोकम् इमं रविः, क्षेत्रं क्षेत्री तथा कृत्स्नं प्रकाशयति भारत। यथा प्रकाशयत्येकः कृत्स्नं लोकम् इमं रविः, क्षेत्रं क्षेत्री तथा कृत्स्नं प्रकाशयति भारत। Just as the one sun illumines the entire world, similarly, the one who is dwelling within you is illumining this whole field called you. You know, that field which is composed of all your bodies, the causal body, the subtle body, and the gross body. Very powerful verse. If you meditate upon it, you know that divine sun, एकदम burning, effulgent, resplendent sun within my own heart, which is वो अपनी किरणों से, अपनी आध्यात्मिक किरणों से मुझे आप्लावित कर रहा है। इट्स अ वेरी पावरफुल मेडिटेशन। 13th चैप्टर का आई थिंक सेकंड लास्ट है, या आई जस्ट टेल द नंबर, 1 सेकंड, कितना टाइम हो गया? Yeah. 13.34. 917. I think we'll stop here. बाकी जो दोनों है वो next time करते हैं. What do we say? Cover the next two today.
Yeah, we'll do it next time.
We'll
No
do it
problem.
next time, ना? हाँ. Every soul is not to make. next time करते हैं. ठीक है. We'll just be quiet.